Welcome back to Americanitis. It's been a minute. Today I'd like to try something a little bit different. I'm going to read a passage that recently came to my attention. You may have heard this one before, but I learned of it about 3 days ago. It's called An American's Creed. I do not choose to become a common man. It is my right to be uncommon. I seek opportunity to develop whatever talents God gave me, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for a dole. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia. I will not trade freedom for beneficence, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any earthly master, nor bend to any threat. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to think and act myself, enjoy the benefit of my creations, and to face the world boldly, and say this, with God's help, I have done. All of this is what it means to be an American. You would be forgiven for thinking that this was written by Jefferson, or Madison, or Franklin, one of the founding fathers indeed. But it wasn't. Now there was a sneaky word in there, dole, and to say that one is on the dole, or here it says for a dole, that kind of phrase wasn't common until the middle of the 20th century. Before it was just doling out, but to say on the dole was a more recent turn of phrase. This was written in 1950, or around there, 1951-ish. The exact date of writing isn't clear, but it was published in 1952. Now, aside from the two mentions of God, this fits very closely into objectivist thought. It's so close. Now, who was this man? Was this some acolyte of Rand's? Well, I don't think so around that time. His name was Dean Alphonge. He was a politician. He was in the Democratic Party, and then the American Labor Party, and then the Liberal Party, and then he was a Republican. He jumped all over the place, but he wasn't a Republican until the 1970s. It looks like when he was writing that, he was part of the Liberal Party of New York after a walkout. He was just kind of all over the place. Right? He wrote some books. He did graduate with an honors in 1922 in philosophy. My point being that this wasn't he wasn't a philosopher. He wasn't some great man. He was a politician in a few different places. It made me start thinking about how far we seem to have fallen. Let me ask you this. If you read that to any man on the street, do you think that he would agree? Do you think that this spirit, that this understanding of what freedom entails exists today? I see it sometimes, but it's very rare. It's generally people like small business owners. I've met a couple dozen of them, and they have this spirit. Come hell or high water, I will do my best, and I will rise or fall on my own merit. Get the hell out of my way. That kind of spirit. I don't believe that over half of the population feels this way. And I've said this before, but the Constitution is only so much paper. It really is. We have the courts to uphold it, supposedly, but even that is sometimes falling by the wayside. That's failing to uphold the Constitution. When you have enough people voting for enough people who are holding values that are antithetical to the Constitution of the United States, what chance does it have? At the end of the day, a government is made up out of people. I worry that the American sense of life, the feeling, the spirit that is behind the statement that I just read is fading. It's going away. My first indication that I was unfortunately correct was the fact that mask mandates were allowed to happen by the populace, the fact that there weren't people marching in the street because they were scared. But that's no good reason. That's no good reason not to fight for your rights. That's no good reason to pretend like you don't have them, like there's something that's given to you by the government. It's not. Rights aren't given to you. You have them by your nature. And it's up to the government to protect those rights. And when it doesn't, when it turns itself instead to abrogating those rights, it's no longer fit for purpose. It needs to be changed. The manner and nature of that change is yet to be determined. But the ideas are out there, and men want to be free. At least I have to believe that men want to be free. Not only is this sentiment that I just read repugnant to probably half of our population in the United States, but I've been reading through some of this. I found this great compendium, if you will. It's called The U.S. Constitution and Other Key American Writings. And I believe it has all of the Federalist Papers. It also has things like the Monroe Doctrine, Susan B. Anthony on women's suffrage, Albert Einstein's letter to President Franklin, Brown versus the Board of Education, the Civil Rights Act, some inaugural addresses. I'm going to start reading through this. I think that it would behoove me to read through the Federalist Papers and to give my opinion on them. But again, what it really underscored for me is just how far we've fallen. The Federalist Papers were not written to be read by philosophers of law. They were written to be read by the common man on the street. You could hand this to a farmer behind his plow, and that was the target audience. They wanted the populace to know how they were planning to build this nation and the problems that they were struggling with and their rationale behind their decisions. And reading through them, I have trouble in some places where I need to look up a word or read a sentence 2 or 3 times just to really understand what they're saying, because there's so many commas and it's hard to get to the end of the sentence and be able to hold the subject in your mind. I just wonder, can we do this again? Because that's what we need. We found ourselves pretty far down the primrose path here. I see citizens acting by permission and the state acting on whim, with impunity. And that is the exact opposite of the American system of government, where we provided the government with very specific powers and said, you may not do anything but this. This is it. This is your list and you must stick to it. And the individual is sovereign. The individual may do whatever he wishes. And now it's flipped, where the government may do whatever it wishes. The men in government, I should say. Because there's no such thing as the government. It's just a bunch of men who want power over other men. They do whatever they want. And instead the citizens are being told that we are the ones who need to seek permission before we act. It's very dangerous, and I'm not sure I see a way out of it, except for recapturing these principles and teaching them to everyone. It's such a daunting task. So anyway, that's my plan. I plan on spending some time reading through this book, and giving my opinions on the different matters therein. I'm going to see if all of the Federalist Papers are in there. If they're not, I'd like to read them all. It's important writing about our country's founding. Yeah, so that's my plan going forward. As to why I haven't been on very recently is, I had a kid, so I have, real life problems. And this podcast has always really been for me. It's for my benefit. It's for me to better understand my chosen philosophy and to kind of force myself to write about it, to really say something, to make sure that I understand it properly. So I haven't been on in a while, and I don't know how much I'll be putting out in the future. I'll get around to it when I can. This is the lowest priority I have. So anyway, this is me signing off. I'll see you again. I'm not sure when, but hopefully when I do, I'll have better news. See you later.